Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today we have even more updates for Alpha 3.24. CIG are actually now hinting at a wider PTU release. Much needed improvements are coming to the cargo user experience, and quite a sizable series of dev responses were made on a FPS combat thread on Spectrum, talking about jankiness and some of the future of the sort of general combat. We'll talk about all of this and more. I'm going to start with the dev response with the user experience on cargo, as it was super important. So the thread was called Request Official Response on Cargo Storage UX, which is user experience issues. Can we finally get an official response on why the new cargo and inventory terminals are lacking in basic features such as search, auto stacking of duplicate items, the option to put loose items into cargo containers? Right now, it seems they go right into the cargo elevator grid, which sounds like an easy way to lose smaller items. Phil CIG, who's the senior gameplay producer for Star Citizen, responded here. We're currently implementing search into the freight elevator and storage access kiosks. It required a bit of extra support from our online services team to query player inventories efficiently. We will discuss auto stacking for items with the team and see if that's on the cards for 3.24. Putting loose items into inventory containers is still planned to optimize how players move FPS gear in larger quantities. Hope that clarifies some of the UX concerns. So yeah, it does, because we need quality of life updates and search function improvements and all that sort of stuff for that new cargo gameplay, especially seeing that we're having the global inventory effectively removed. Without those quality of life improvements they sort of mentioned there and some of the others that they're working on, we're going to be moving into a much more complex version of cargo without many of the tools that we need to actually sort through it. So yes, the more they can produce their quality of life wise and getting the search function out, auto stacking, stuff like that would be superb before 3.24 goes live. And talking about 3.24, there was another EVOCATI patch that went out on the 16th of July. This made further updates to try and make docking more robust, and CIG said that they're trying to resolve the last couple of issues that were blocking the Wave 1 PTU release. They fixed a load of issues with this latest patch, including Vulcan performance, getting teleported away from your hangar. In fact, tons of issues with personal hangars, vehicle spawning, and freight elevators, which are the core parts of this patch. But there are a ton of new known issues that have been added to their sort of known issues list. Now that's actually a good sign that CIG are focusing on those issues, trying to write them in and saying, look, we know that these are a load of known issues that we are prioritizing. They're going to be trying to fix them over the next couple of EVOCATI patches, or potentially pushing it into Wave 1 PTU to get more data to fix them. So these sort of problems range from invisible panels and interaction with buttons and panels, as well as broken item storage to ASOP terminal issues, that sort of stuff. So some of it does prevent you from having a great time with the game. Anything that blocks accessibility, stability, or gameplay, all that sort of stuff needs to be solved ASAP. So they are trying to do that. Many of those known issues and loads of other ones, just general sort of performance and little bugs and stuff, they sort of have fixes for already, and they're all in the pipeline somewhere, and they will be going into the wider PT release or live builds. And I know I've been saying this a lot over the last couple of weeks, but yeah, it looks like 3.24 potentially could be with us by this weekend, and in fact that looks pretty likely now, but let's wait and see. Certainly not a confirmation. Before we move on to the FPS questions and answers and that thread going over all of that, I want to bring your attention to some other news. The Foundation Festival is ongoing. You've got 10 ships that you can try for free. Whether you're an entirely new player, you can play for free at the moment, but you also get those 10 ships even if you're a veteran to try out. There's a load of cool stuff there, including the Vulture and the Prospector, stuff like that. But there was a load of rewards, and there's still a load of rewards being given out to people that use the guide system, whether you're being guided or you're actually teaching. They got the rewards the wrong way around though, and if you've been affected by that, CIG will sort you out over the next few days. You'll be getting the old ones removed and replaced with the correct ones. Just thought it was worth a bit of a public service announcement for that. So there was a thread on Spectrum, FPS questions, that had a load of questions asked and answered. So let's start from the top with what the original poster, the OP, said. As a lover of FPS games, and from what I have read in other threads of yours at Zach Priest, CIG, For context there, Zach Priest is the senior FPS game designer on Squadron and Star Citizen. You also like competitive FPS games. I would like to ask a few things about it. About the crosshair, the dynamic one is very good, but when it comes down to it, as you well know, a dynamic crosshair for quick aiming does not work well. The fact that it moves does not allow you to aim at the body quickly and then use the aim down sights. It ends up disorientating you. Furthermore, shooting from the hip is unfeasible, so it doesn't matter to use a dynamic crosshair and see where the gun is pointing if it's not going to hit any bullets. Regarding sensitivities, and this is what worries me the most, the sensitivity continues to vary too much when changing sights, 2 times to 4 times for example, with a high FOV, field of view. And as you well know, that destroys your muscle memory when you are constantly varying the sensitivity. I appreciate the effort you put into it, and it would be great if you could solve things like the ones I've written and provide alternatives in customization, such as crosshair. As an example, I don't like Call of Duty at all, but it has a very good degree of control customization, thanks to the great work you do. So Zach Priest responded here. Regarding the crosshair, the weapon fires from the barrel, so the crosshair is a representation of where the shots will land, meaning when you look around, the weapon has to catch up. It's a very minor amount of time, but it's important to gameplay feel. Most games don't opt to fire from the barrel because of the inconsistencies such as this, but that isn't the game that Star Citizen is. Gluing the weapon's position just feels really naff as you lose a lot of fidelity when locomoting. If you think hip firing is unfeasible currently, it's very meta currently in CQC, close quarter combat engagements, but in 3.24 there is some inertia introduced to stop people playing DDR Itizen. Assumedly Dance Dance Revolution Itizen for like dodging rapidly from side to side or dancing and just rapidly firing. Regarding sensitivities, we use a linear metric to determine your sensitivity based on zoom, so it shouldn't be inconsistent. Plan is to get zoom sensitivities controls per level so you can adjust them to your liking in a lot of competitive games. So if you don't like the linear curve setup, you can have it as specific and niche as you like. I really like the way Star Citizen does some of its stuff. It does not do it simply. It has made a rod for its own back. It's done a lot of stuff very complex. Like, they've unified first and third person for your player character. It's not faked. So wherever you are, you will see the same thing. You don't see some different animations or whatever. You see exactly what that player sees. Obviously, you might have a slightly different point of view, but it's really, really cool. That even comes down to the actual bullets coming out of the weapon. This provides super high fidelity and it's very cool, but maybe it's a little bit too much. Do we need all of that? I'm interested to know other people's opinions on that. Like, actually, yeah, I really, really like the fidelity that Star Citizen's doing. That's why I back Star Citizen. That's why I love the game, even though it's taking a long time. Or, and actually, I'd prefer a lot more of these other gameplay loops and other stuff to just come out and it be in a further along state and not necessarily have this level of fidelity. Anyway, the questions continued. As long as we're on the topic of crosshair, any plans around the hit marks? I like them for stuff like Star Marine, but in the persistent universe it kind of feels too gamey and cheap and feels like it will be an issue when confirming hits and kills that I'm not supposed to know about, assuming there isn't a lore reason that the enemy suit is letting me know if the target is down. Just saying that combat would probably feel a bit more real if I didn't know whether I delivered a killing shot or not. So what are we doing? Are we liking this? Are we not liking it? So with hit markers, it's currently only tied to combat visors. They're the most optimal for combat for certain playstyles, but we have larger trade-offs when more gear archetypes come online, etc. But there's no reason not to use one now because the other gear types aren't here yet. But when more things come online, you'll have to make meaningful choices on the gear that you take with trade-offs to suit your style. So, for example, gear that gives you more information, such as hit markers, will not have the other powerful elements that other gear will have, which I won't go into since it's future content we've not talked about specifically. But you can imagine, just as a really high-level concept example of a trade-off, this gear might have very high emissions, meaning you are really easily scanned. Obviously, you don't want it to be a crutch for combat, as we want to offer gear with meaningful choice and reward those who go for gear with less contemporary FPS feedback. But in this case, it's just the nature of development, and those combat helmets are furthest along, and they're the only ones that are turned on. The kill indicator wouldn't be needed if we didn't have those awful super long death animations. Any word when we can see them removed or otherwise improved. Again, Zach Priest responds, in the process of. Animations still want to keep them, but they're always been intended as super rare chance to trigger, but that hasn't been the case. There should be a 1% or so chance. Follow up here, I don't like the sound of an animation playing at all. All the animations for death right now are just terrible for visual feedback to players. I personally feel that if an NPC or player is killed or incapacitated, they should instantly drop to the ground randomly style. Again, Zach Priest responds, anything that isn't an instant silhouette change is getting pulled out and put under a very, very low chance percentage. It's all very short animations into ragdolls. You'll need animations, otherwise it will look broken, basically. Another question, I would also like to know if the dynamics of animations will change. I don't know what it's called correctly. That is, the characters move too quickly and twitch relative to your aim. How can I say? It's like I'm playing Quake and not a simulator. Zach responded, the twitchiness of the character is mainly due to two things, the lack of inertia and hipfire not being punishing enough. Some inertia has been introduced in 3.24 that should solve this issue without making the movement feel sluggish. We're keeping an eye on it to make sure it stops the tap strafing. I want to see how much that solves before touching the hipfire. People are hip firing because it makes their movement speed higher and overall hip firing penalty isn't high enough, comboed with no hip fire movement penalty as well. Boom! That's your updates for FPS combat and animations and some of the stuff they're working on for 3.24 and beyond. Hopefully, we'll have an even better FPS combat experience. Obviously, this stuff will affect both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. But are you excited for Alpha 3.24? Do you think it's going to be out to wider PTU by this weekend? Or do you think we're going to be waiting still ever more? What improvements would you like to see for FPS? What improvements would you like to see for the user experience for the new cargo stuff? Do you like that CIG's developers actually take to the forums and chat to us? Or do you think it causes confusion when what they're saying is planned for the time but changes later and we don't necessarily get an update until much later? Whatever your thoughts or questions, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. And you should definitely buy NordVPN from the links below. Oh, exciting!
I'm a futuristic cyborg sent back in time for one purpose. Give me your boots, your jacket, and your nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. Get NordVPN if you want to live on the internet. It's the only thing that will protect you against Skynet and my Terminator impression.
It gives you greater accessibility, security, and privacy on the internet as well. You should use the links below. Every month, we have a ship giveaway. For July, we're giving away a Constellation Taurus. This workhorse allows you to do some solid cargo running, as well as some combat and room for a small crew. It's just a great all-round mission runner and awesome ship to experience Star Citizen with. This comes with access to the game and lifetime insurance as well. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during July. Each video is another chance to win. More details in the description below. Please consider supporting the channel with the join button under my videos or via Patreon, links below to all of that. It goes a long way in helping us to be able to make daily Star Citizen content and Zin's lore videos, all that sort of jazz. Thank you so much to all the glorious members that already do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can always help as well by sharing, liking, subscribing, and getting involved in the comments section. And thank you very much for those of you that watched to the end. It is appreciated.